welcome. I'm Lindsay from Mystic Haven Acres, and this is my podcast, Living for Real. Thanks for joining me. I'm here to share my experiences as someone who never quite fit in and shed some light on life's simple and not so simple things. A single mama, born and raised in the GTA, now living a peaceful, rural, homesteading life with my kids and critters, and I can't wait to share with you some of the magic I have learned along the way. I pride myself in real living, real food, real conversations, and real experiences. So leave your preconceived notions at the door and buckle up. This free spirit is about to take you for an interesting ride. Hey, and welcome back. You hear the saying, build a life you don't need a vacation from. But what does that actually mean? So many of us have lives that we feel we need to escape from. We feel the weight of our world, and we can't wait to jet off to a beach somewhere, to escape to the cottage every weekend, or retreat somewhere for 2 weeks or whatever. There's this nagging feeling that we need to escape from our lives, our work, our responsibilities. And I realized recently that I don't feel the need to escape my life anymore. I've gotten to a point where I'm actually really content with my life. I mean, it's not easy every day, but it's not something that I feel like I need to run away from, or that the weight is so heavy that I feel the need to try and escape it. That wasn't always the case, though. There was definitely a time that I needed that escape. I needed the break. I needed just to go somewhere, anywhere, and forget all of my responsibilities. And I remember how desperately I ached for it. I was tired, run down, overwhelmed, on high alert, and in go mode all the time, or so it felt. But I don't feel that way anymore. And that was a pretty cool realization. The other thing I realized is, because don't get me wrong, I still have the desire to travel. By my very design and nature, I love to experience and see and explore. And so I'm not saying that I don't want to travel anymore, because I do. But it comes from a different place now. It comes from that place of wanting to see and explore and experience, and not from the place of needing that escape. This next bit is hard to share, but I think it's super important that I do share it, because I hope it'll make someone else feel better. Make somebody feel less alone in this journey, and maybe it might even help someone not get to the point in their journey that I got to, and I hope that it allows them to make whatever changes they need to make before they get there, because I don't want anybody ever to get to the point I got to, or worse, beyond the point that I got to. So what was this place where I felt the need to escape from my life? Why didn't I know how bad it was until I actually got away? I mean, I knew it was bad, but I didn't feel the real urge to make a change until I got away and saw how it felt to be alive again. I was at a point in my life where I felt like I was just hanging on by a thread. I was doing all the things that I had to do, but everything felt really hard. I was going through my day on autopilot, and it got to the point most days, looking back now, that I was robotic-like and numb. And it was the only way to do it, really, so that I didn't have to face the reality that pained me so deeply. Because on the days that I did allow myself to feel things, they got really heavy. And the weight was way too much. And I'd break down. Which left me being of little good to myself, my kids, or anyone or anything else. But things started to change in 2017 when I got the opportunity to fulfill a bucket list dream. I don't remember exactly how it came about, but for years I had this desire to go to Montana. And about 10 years prior to this, some friends and I had gone to Wyoming because at the time I couldn't afford going to Montana. And I don't know that they could either. So we went to Wyoming. And while it was absolutely amazing, more amazing than I could have ever imagined, it was not Montana. And so I continued to have this desire to go to Montana, so much so that when I lived in southern Alberta for a short time, I actually packed my 2-year-old and infant twins up and I headed in the direction of the Montana border. I had no intention of crossing the border, but my pull to Montana was that strong. I, of course, came to my senses shortly into my trip when I realized it would be a 4-hour round trip with no real purpose other than to say, I saw Montana. And I would end up with 3 cranky littles and being stressed out of my mind worrying about their feeding and sleeping needs and the aftermath of all of that. So needless to say, I never got there. And when this opportunity arose, I jumped on it. If I remember correctly, I just happened to come across an ad on Facebook and there was a sale at a ranch in Montana, which after some digging turned out to be one of the ranches that we had wanted to go to 10 years prior and we just couldn't afford it. But now, with the sale, even though money was tight, I made the decision that I needed to go. I needed to make it happen. And so I did. Now, without getting into too many details, the trip was amazing. And again, this is something I'm going to touch on, I'm sure, over the course of this podcast, because it was such an important and life-changing thing for me. But what I have the desire to share here today is actually about coming home afterward and the wall of emotion that I was hit with when I got home. At the time, I lived about 3 hours from the Toronto airport. And so as I was driving home, the closer I got, the more and more angst built up inside of me. And the more and more the pit in my stomach grew. And it got to the point that when I pulled into my driveway and I got out to greet my mom, who had graciously offered to watch my kids while I was away, I felt this wave of shock flood over me. My mom, of course, was so thankful to have me home after an eventful week with my 3 young kids. Yet I, on the other hand, was not feeling good about being home at all. And it still bothers me to say and think about this. And I am reluctant to share. However, I feel like my sharing this will help somebody else. And even if it only helps one person, it'll be worth sharing. I hope. Okay. So I felt this absolute dread. This absolute dread, like I pulled into the driveway and my mom told me how excited my kids were to see me. But I knew it was nap time and they were actually napping. So I wasn't in any big rush to get in the house. And she said, "Oh no, you should go and wake them up." And I was just like in this state of almost, like I say, shock. I was totally stunned, frozen in some sort of fear. I don't want to say I was paralyzed, but it was like my entire reality came crashing in and down on me, and I just wasn't ready for it. I wasn't ready to dive back in. And to this day, I don't know if having stayed longer in Montana and maybe been able to work through some of these things, if that would have made it easier to come home. And please, don't get me wrong, I missed my kids. I really did. I love my kids. But the stress and requirements of me as a single mom, as a full-time working single mom, it was just a lot. It was a lot. And to come back to that after years of having some time to myself, a whole week, not having to worry about anything or anyone, not meals, not bedtime routines, not rushing to school and daycare and all the demands of work. Not anything except enjoying myself and relaxing, which proved to have been so very much needed. I don't think I realized before I went the extent to which I had plummeted mentally, physically, and emotionally. I mean, I knew it was not great, but honestly, I didn't know it was that bad. And coming back was like, there was this fear and just dread. So many emotions, and they weren't happy ones. And that really made me feel even worse. The guilt and the shame that I felt for feeling the way I did, for not being over the moon excited to be home with my babies and my family. It was earth-shattering all in itself. And I've held that grief and guilt and shame for so many years. My point of sharing this is not for pity or sympathy or anything like that. I have finally begun to make my peace with this, finally. And my point of sharing this is because I don't want other people to get to that place. I don't want other people to sit stuck in whatever it is that is like chipping away at them, so much so that they get to the point that they just crumble and feel like they can't piece it back together. And that's why I'm sharing this, because I waited too long. And I mean, you could say that I didn't really have a choice. You could say that. You could say that you don't really have a choice. But the truth of the matter is that we always have a choice. We always have a choice. We can't always see, and I couldn't, which is why it took so long. I thought I was trying to see, and I could very well have been trying to see. I feel like I was trying to see, as I'm sure so many of us do. And I mean, we sit there and we try to figure it out, right? We try and we try and we try, and yet no matter what we do, we can't make it make sense. And so we stuff our discomfort down as deep as we can, and we numb out and check out to avoid the pain. But in doing that, we miss out on so much. And so the thing with my trip to Montana was having been able to live and reconnect with myself that week, to allow me the space that I needed to see what was truly important and how much of that was missing from my life. And not only how it was impacting me, but my kids as well. It gave me the strength I needed to figure it out, to try harder, to look deeper, to really look outside the box and really look within myself. And feeling that spark within me reignite, I knew I couldn't keep living that way. I couldn't keep living the way I was living. It wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for my kids. And I knew I had to change. I also knew, being in the situation I was in, and that I believe so many other people are in, it wasn't like I could just go on vacation every year and have that little revival to make everything a little more manageable until the next time. Money was tight. Vacation time was so limited. So that was an issue, and I was like, no, you need to do something. And so I did. I started looking at more things. I started exploring more options. Anyways, my point is, I was living a life that I needed a vacation from because it was just too much. I was doing too much. And I had to in the situation I was in. Just like so many of us, right? That's the way it was, you know? to keep afloat, to keep my bills paid, to keep my kids fed, whatever. I believed that was what I had to do at the time because I truly couldn't see how I could possibly change anything. And that was so debilitating. And I know that some of you have been or are in this place, doing all the things, and it's either never enough or no matter what we do, we still feel that hole within us. But once the light was shed, once the spark was lit, I could see again. And I had hope, and I ran with it. And my goal now is to help light other people's sparks again. People like you, or maybe someone you know. So that's why I'm running a masterclass for people that feel any of these things. Like I say, I hope that people aren't in the position I was in, or worse. And I hope that people don't get to that place of despair and grief. But the reality is that there are others out there in different or maybe similar situations that have these thoughts and feelings. I have carried so much guilt and shame from that moment of returning home and just not feeling the way I would have hoped to, wanted to, or even thought I would feel. You know, we expect to feel excited and happy to be reunited with our loved ones. But I was in such a bad place that those were not the feelings at the forefront of my mind. They were, of course, there. And I was, of course, happy to see my kids and couldn't wait to give them a big hug when they came down from their nap. But I was grieving the loss of the joy that I had felt just hours before, knowing that I was now going back to the grindstone, back to rushing around, wasting away, and missing out on life's precious moments. And on top of that, like so many of us do, I beat myself up a lot about those feelings that I had. And as much as I could say, I should have felt this way or that way or whatever, and as much as I was in control of the situation, I sure didn't feel like I was. It's not surprising that I felt the way that I did. And it's not surprising that other people feel this way in these situations. And we have to stop attacking ourselves for having these feelings, because I know personally it wasn't how I felt about my kids or anything like that. It was just that I was so deprived myself and I was suffering so deeply that the pain had taken over. So if you can relate to anything you've heard today, please check out the show notes for the link to sign up for my masterclass, or reach out if you have any questions. And if you're hearing this after the 18th of January, please get in touch with me to find out about other options available. You deserve better. You deserve to feel joy. You deserve to feel excited and lit up. We all do. It's so lonely in the darkness. Sending you big hugs. Thanks so much for listening in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a review and share with your friends and family. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss upcoming episodes. And thanks again. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.